button here, and when you're done, you'll want to press that.
Wait, I press this one when I'm finished?
Yep.
Okay, when it's at 2:57.
Or whenever.
Okay.
It's just for the recording.
Okay.
But yeah, whenever you're ready, you can.
All right, thank
right
you.
into it. Yeah, of course.
Is it gonna show me like the? Is it gonna show my face?
Yeah, if you. This is the preview input now, so if you press any of these transition buttons.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
All right, how's everybody doing today? Long time no see. I haven't been here in a while, so I'm happy to be back. Happy New Year, to everybody. It's a hard thing to like go back into this transition since haven't been here for a while. And yeah, there's a lot I want to talk about today. Especially since the last time I was here, I was kind of describing like this state of being homeless and like the feeling of homelessness. And I feel like this is a kind of a good, like, today I want to focus on like I want to focus on the word homeless, because a lot of times, especially in society, we have a preconceived notion of what it means for somebody to be homeless, and we don't really understand that there is the homeless identity is a very complex identity. It's not, just one type of individual. So I'm gonna be writing a book about my homeless journey, and I'm also gonna be doing a documentary. So this is why I started my Black Eye Galaxy channel, was to kind of showcase my journey into homelessness. So my first episode, I did describe, like, kind of went into detail about, like, my journey of how I got into homelessness. And yeah, it was a very chaotic journey, and I'm no longer homeless. But again, even though I want you guys to understand that homelessness is it's a mindset. Well, again, so this is from my experiences of being homeless. I have my own little theory. I have, in my thing, there's 7 different types of homeless people. And I know you probably think about, like, 7, like, what are you talking about? And I know I'm gonna get into it today. Because especially with the news, what happened in California on Tuesday with the fire that happened in California, this is like the perfect time to discuss about why I'm saying that there's so many different types of homeless people. Because what happened with the fire, that was a natural disaster. So when I say there's 7 different types of homeless people, the first type of homeless person is the one that happened in California, the natural disaster type of homeless person. So it's like, and it's funny because sometimes in life you might have gone through, today we're gonna talk about, like, the categories. You might have gone through all the types. I don't know, like, I went through I would say I think majority of the different types of homeless people, I bounced around, throughout my life. So yeah, it's a very dark place. I mean, you lose everything that means so much to you, and you feel as if, like, you don't feel how should I put it? I don't know. You almost just feel as if, like, it's like an out of body experience. It's a humbling experience, I will say. But again, if they ever paid me, if they were like, I'll give you $1 billion to be homeless again, I'll be like, no, I'll never. never again. It was that's one and done for me. So, okay, but I wrote it down. I wrote it down about. I wish I could kind of go back, focus on like my last episode because I didn't really get to. I went deep into my last episode about So my last episode, I remember I'm into astrology and I was looking at my birth natal chart, and I'm a moon in Scorpio. So I was looking at the degree of the moon in Scorpio, and it said the actual degree of my because even though you could be a moon in Scorpio, everybody has a different degree because obviously astrology is very complex. But in my degree, it literally describes my position of being homeless. I was like literally so. And I talk about that in my last episode, but I don't know if I don't think it recorded. I might have to redo that whole episode, but okay. So I'm gonna go down a list of the different types of, and this is for all the people like in the world that always say, oh, homeless people, they're drug addicts, they choose to be homeless. It's a choice. No, it's okay. In one of my categories, it is a choice, but for majority of the people that are homeless, it's never a choice. Remember that. It is a circumstance. It might be temporary for some people. It might be, a spiritual journey they're going under. But remember, it's a circumstance. It's not. It's very rarely a choice. You kind of fall into it, and like I said, it's the various layers. So the first type of homeless person, it's a natural disaster that caused you to be homeless. So it could be either due to Mother Nature or man-made. Okay, so it could be due to a fire, a flood, desert storms, whatever, or tornado, whatever natural disaster that caused you to lose your home. That's the first type of homeless person, due to Mother Nature. And then the other one, that's still a natural disaster, but it's man-made. Okay, so you could be homeless due to war, you could be homeless due to genocide, through a famine, and colonization, gentrification. You could be in a refugee camp. That is all a form of homelessness, but that's man-made. Okay, so interestingly enough, I was actually born in a refugee camp. And my parents were escaping war when I was born, so I was born into homelessness. So, and I had to actually think about that while I was going through my list and writing my book about homelessness, because I was like, you know what? It's interesting that now that like I'm kind of going deeper into my life and actually looking back and like on my journey of homelessness, I'm like, wow, I actually experienced homelessness as a child. So my parents were not at home when they had me. They were not in their home country. They were displaced. And displacement. We can even say being an immigrant is also a form of homelessness too, because you're being displaced from your natural environment. When you immigrate from another country, you're not in your natural environment. You leave, for economic reasons, for survival reasons. So yeah, so then the first type is, and mind you, that's so complex. I didn't even go down my list. That's just one type of homeless person, okay? The second type, and these can overlap. So, you can be like, oh yeah, I experienced that, because I also experienced homelessness also due to a flood in, my house. So, okay, so they can overlap. So the second one is you're economically homeless. So you can experience, losing your job. That's obviously a very common reason why you become homeless. You could also be disabled, okay? And you can be disabled and you're unable to work. So you might want to work, but now you can't because you're sick, okay? So again, that ties into economic, because your disability is not allowing you to keep over a roof over your head and to really, play this game, this capitalistic game. So you have a physical. So the disability, you could be born with the disability as well. We never really talk about that too. You could be born disabled, that can cause you to not be able to work. I would say this: you could have like a disability that ends up getting worse over time, and that also doesn't allow you to really properly function at work. So maybe you were able to work, and then over a certain time, now you're not able to work as much as before. Then you have obviously you can be disabled due to an accident. So you could have an injury. If you are a veteran at war, or you have a no, you have a mental impairment due to the experiences of being at war, or maybe you had a traumatic experience. Maybe not from war, but just something in your life was so traumatic that caused you to be disabled, and now you can never have a job. Okay, So again, this is all economically you're homeless, but it ties into the fact that now you're disabled. This is not, and mind you, this is my list is not. It's not organized. I'm obviously when I create my book, I'm gonna really mesh it together and like have it be very clear. The reason why I'm doing this is because I want people to realize that being homeless it's a complex topic. It's very deep, and it's so easy to play the blame game, that and say you're homeless because of of so it pisses me off. Okay, so this now we have the psychologically homeless. Okay, so you become homeless due to mental trauma, due to prolonged exposure to domestic violence. You probably grew up in a chaotic, unstable environment. You're exposed to like unsafe living conditions. Maybe you dealt with a parent that had a very heavy addiction to alcohol or any kind of drug, and then and now you have untreated emotional trauma due to all this experiences, all this negative exposure. So now you're homeless, and psychologically, mentally, you're not able to float. You're not able to you're not able to put yourself together. And I want to point out the psychologically homeless. That person is not. I feel like that is one of the most. That can go two ways. Okay, you can be like, maybe you've always had a kind of depression, and maybe you could survive that depression and your psychological issues, but then it hits like a breaking point, and then you end up never able to, you just snap. I don't know, cause I don't want you guys to think when I say you're psychologically homeless, it's a mental breakdown, okay? And it takes years to even get to this point. It's not always automatic for everybody, especially when sometimes you don't even know that there's something psychologically wrong with you. That's why you ended up being homeless. A lot of times for some people it's not always obvious. So that one I always was like, yes, you have it, because with a disability, if you're injured, if you're physically injured, that's always obvious. But the psychologically, that's still an injury too. But we don't always, know right away. Sometimes that takes a long time to really surface in your life. So yeah, you experience extreme neglect, and now you're unable to hold down a job. And then what I also want to put out, another one where you can be some psychologically having had a breakdown is when you're burnt out. I'll give you an example. If you're a caretaker to somebody who's sick in your family, that's going to cause you to be extremely burnt out, and that's a form of disability. They actually now recently, I don't know if it was after COVID, but they did talk about being burnt out as a form of disability. And it's not just you've been working and then you're tired, you've been working long hours. This is a psychological thing. This is years and years of being traumatized, and then having your body going through just severe your nervous system is really just not fluctuating in the right manner. So being burnt out, if you ever been a caretaker, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So you suffer from you basically have a nervous breakdown from dealing with all that. And then the other form, I'm gonna put domestic violence underneath psychologically being homeless, because a lot of people that end up being homeless also experience domestic violence. So that's obviously takes a toll on their psychological mind. So takes a toll on them psychologically. So yeah, you're a victim of an abusive family. Maybe a spouse. You're escaping to get away from the abuse. You could also be experiencing sexual abuse at home, or even at work. So this is domestic violence is not always at home. It's just like somewhere where close proximity to people you live with or you work with are not treating you in the right manner. But I know domestic violence usually revolves around the family. But okay, so the other, I'll put domestic violence in its own category. I'll put that under 4. Okay, so I remember I told you I said 7 different types, right? So now we're at the 5th. Now mind you, now you've dealt with all this trauma, you've been abused, you dealt with domestic violence. You probably had your mother and your father were not there for you, not in the way that they should have been. So now you have an addiction because you're trying to escape basically the first 2 that I just explained. The trauma. You're trying to escape the trauma that you've been through. So you're addicted to drugs, alcohol. It doesn't always have to be a substance. You could be addicted to a lot of different things. Maybe you have an addiction to your job. Like maybe you always are at work and you don't know ever how to take care of yourself or be there for yourself. So an addiction just means something that you have you use as an escape to not address your issues. So it could be substance abuse. It could be maybe you spend a lot of money. Maybe you gamble. I don't know. Whatever it is, you can have addiction to anything. So, and that could cause you to be homeless. Yeah, because you're not. Now the addiction is taking over you. It's ruining your relationship with other people. It messes up your relationship with yourself because you're not facing your what's really bothering you, what's really frustrating you. So, yeah. So that's number 5, your addiction. Number 6. Now, okay, so this one, I know, because I just said nobody chooses to be homeless, right? But if we're going to say somebody chooses to be homeless, and I have an awareness because I was at the homeless shelter, yes, sometimes some people decide they choose to be homeless. And I know you're probably thinking, who the hell would want to be homeless? You know who wants to be homeless? The person that wants to make money. Yeah. People are, how do you make money being homeless? Think about it. If you have a job and you live in a homeless shelter and then you rent out your place, right, to somebody else. Mind you live in the homeless shelter, but you rented out your wherever you really live, all right? So now you live in the homeless shelter. You're getting paid by the person that lives in your house, and you have a job. You're getting 2 checks, but you live in the homeless shelter, and you get the free stuff that they give you at the homeless shelter. It's not always a lot of stuff, anyways, but you get whatever. So you're getting 2 incomes because you realize, you know what? Instead of me living there, I'm gonna sacrifice myself. I'm gonna live in the shelter. And not everybody does this. This is a very rare person. Okay, this is like a scammer. They do this, but yeah, they do. This is the type of person. They're living in a homeless shelter because they don't want to pay. They want to save money. So they live in their car. They might travel they might couch surf. They might use other people's resources. They go to shelter, like I said. I put this number 6 Because again, no, this is number 5. Sorry. Hold on, 1, 2, 3. Psychologically. Okay, it's not really organized, but it is 7 different types. I'm gonna, whatever. So yeah, they choose to be homeless. Okay, and this is like why. So this is a very rare person, but you have to understand they have a place, so they can always snap back into the other reality. So this is temporary for them, so they can save money. So this is not that. This is really not the person that I'm addressing. But I have seen some people like this, believe it or not, in my homeless journey, but not a lot. Not majority of the people were the other people that I named, the first people. Oh yeah, and then also you can choose to be homeless if you want to, maybe you want to do a backpack trip to different countries to experience different ways of living. You can have, usually that's a young person, adventurous person, or someone who needs a different environment and is searching to find themselves while still holding down a job. Okay, so that's again, it's a choice, but it's there's a reason for it. Okay, but I just gave you different types of choices. The first one was like the person that wants to save money, they have their place, whatever, and the other one is like they want to have like a, just kind of an adventure, and maybe they're going on a road trip or whatever. It reminds me of like people that almost like not college, but like people that do like, they live in the hostels and they like they want to like, climb mountains, like that type of homeless person. But it's not, again, it's not, it's not like circumstance. It's a free will. You know what I mean? And if you are gonna be homeless, to me that's the best type of homeless person, because at least it's a choice. It's not like you fall. It's not something like tragic that happened to you. It's more of like, it's just you want to, this is the path that you want to take in life. Okay, so the number 6, so I'll put that one as 5. I think I'll put domestic violence under psychologically homeless. I'll put that together. I won't put that in its own. The reason why I put addiction as number 4 is because it's different, because I feel like once you have an addiction, it's almost past psychological. Now it's like you're battling something with your body. So that's why it has to be in its own category. Okay, so now the number 6, I would say this is like a gypsy homeless person. Okay, so what's a gypsy? I would say you're someone who is like, due to their family upbringing, is constantly being uprooted with their their family moves place to place. Maybe they're a nomad. And these are not, obviously, this is not always typical that you see. But yeah, some people have families that like they're always traveled around. Maybe they're in the military, you know what I mean? That they're always kind of moving around a lot. And then you kind of feel like you never really had a home. Like you never really had like a stability. You're always kind of traveling, moving around. So I feel like that's number 6. I would put that. I would even say like sometimes even if you're a model, if you travel a lot because of your job, or if you're a singer, if you go on tour, that's a kind of a cool way to also maybe, but that comes with a lot of things too. Because I remember one time Michael Jackson was saying how he hated touring, and that was kind of funny because like it's like for him to say that because he was such a good performer, and he's like, because it takes a lot out of you to tour, and that's, you're not at home, like you're just like, you're not at a stable place. So yeah, so it's like, even though it's your job that's forcing you to do it, it's still a lot on you. So yeah, that was number 6. So it's kind of in a situation where you're always kind of fluctuating, so that's why I say gypsy is kind of like that type of homeless person. It's like, and I don't say you choose it, you're kind of destined for it. I feel like those are kind of like those type of careers where like you're meant to kind of always move around, or you're born into it. Like I said, it's funny too because back to Michael Jackson, it's funny because he traveled a lot with his brothers when he was in Jackson 5. So I feel like he was always kind of like, even when he was a child, he was always kind of like moving like from place to kind of place, because he would travel to go to different venues, and that's kind of like, like, for me, homelessness is just, you don't have a home. It's not a stable environment. So anytime you're kind of just, you know what I mean, like, that's, yeah. Okay, so the last one, the seventh one, because I said there's 7 different types, is the wandering homeless. Okay, and what is a wandering homeless person? This one, the wandering homeless person, I'm like, it's not the same as like the gypsy homeless person, because this one is like, it's kind of interesting because that's what I named my channel, Vagus Mul Galaxy, and Vagus is Latin, for wanderer, okay? Because I feel like a wandering homeless person, it's somebody that really is sick and tired of, like, I want to say, like, somebody who's like want to transcend their human experience. It's like they just tired of constantly living this fake reality of like having to go to work, having to pay bills, and they just want, it's like they hit a point in their mind where they're like, enough. You know what I mean? Like, they don't want to do nothing anymore. They just want to wander. They just want to wander. So they're seeking to transcend the human experience. It's a spiritual, like, they want to spiritually wander. Because they're tired of this, the physicality, the day-to-day, the physicality of what life expects out of you. And being homeless is, they kind of fall into that. It's like, they fall into it's not like a gypsy, because being a wanderer, it's a very, very dark place, okay? And it's a very ugly, and you're kind of trying to make sense of your traumatic path. And this world doesn't really help you, like, it doesn't really help you to seek that, to find yourself. You're kind of wandering to find yourself. And sometimes you maybe don't really want it, and maybe you really, it's like a lost soul. I would say somebody who's very lost, but I also will say, this is the type of homeless person that has like a lot of like creativity and is very artistic, a very philosophical person, and has a lot of esoteric knowledge, and very spiritually highly gifted and like really psychic. So, and is interested in reaching higher dimensions. So if you get to this point, if you feel like this type of homeless person that you're at, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Because, and I also feel like this is a way, this is like a wanderer, a homeless person that is wandering, is like it's like a God's messenger, because, mind you, they're going into like a deep place that most people cannot psychologically go down that path. They cannot. Some places, some people don't want to wander. They're like, you know what, I don't want to go down that path. But if you're a wanderer, you're gonna go really to the darkest place that you can go to. Homelessness can take you there. Remember, I in my last episode, I was saying that homelessness is it's really a form of chaos. It's not a secure place, because you're not safe. You don't have a home. You're unsafe. So now you're going into like really to the abyss, okay? And if you know, the abyss is it's a very like the bottom of the ocean type of feeling. It's a very dark place. Most people would never reach the bottom of the ocean, okay? But mind you, a wanderer is going into the abyss. So this is very deep. It's not just like it's a very dark place to get to this place, and it's so hard to get out of it. Because I'm, even though I've experienced many different type of homelessness, I probably have like experienced all of this on my list. I've experienced all of it, but I would say the wandering homeless one. I've come to realize that this one is the type of homelessness that's supposed to kind of help humanity in a way. Because, they always say there's some people, they might go through experiences and it will kill them. And then there's some people that go through the same experience and it will really damage them. You're never going to come out the same when you're homeless. That I will say. But you will be able to help society because you've gained so much knowledge from this being going down that ugly dark path. So, and I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that died going through down this list that I just mentioned, because I'm telling you, it's a sad list. Nobody wants to go through this. Nobody. That's why people, they literally, when you hear somebody and you're like, that person is homeless, no matter how you became homeless, doesn't matter if you became homeless through a natural disaster, it was man-made, whatever the case may be, all of it is severely traumatic. So life is already difficult as it is. So can you imagine? You don't have no security. And you know what the thing is? It's the little things. I remember when I was homeless, right? And I have this cup of tea, and I used to get mad because sometimes I got tired of drinking the tea that they had at Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm sick of their tea. I want a honey lemon ginger tea, whatever, something that you make at home. I didn't have it, so now I'm like, it got to the point where I had to buy the herbs, and I was like, you know what? Let me just ask for hot water and I'll just make the tea by myself, but it's like these little things, the little inconveniences. It's like you don't have that when you have a home. You don't have the inconveniences. When you're homeless, you're constantly inconvenienced. You're interrupted, no privacy, people disrespect you, they judge you, they want to give you a lecture, and they say like, how did you become homeless? You don't even look like, you don't even look like you could be homeless. It's like, you don't even know my story. You don't even know like all the things that I'm telling you guys now, how you can become homeless because of the ways. Homelessness is a breakdown of a person. It really is. If you see somebody is homeless, you're like, damn, like, look at that person, and you're like, yo. And this is not number 6. If they're not number 6, the one that remember I told you the one that's choosing, or number 5, the one that's choosing to be homeless. But if they're not choosing to be homeless, so the other 6 that I just named you, that's a lot on a person. And I'm telling you, if you've never been homeless, don't talk, seriously. Mind your business and listen and don't judge. Because you know what? I'm sick and tired of people always pointing a finger. And it's funny because they never talk about the millionaires and the billionaires. A lot of this, they also create homelessness too. Because, like I said, the economically homeless person, when you have a job, they don't really care if you're having a psychological breakdown. Are you gonna go to your boss and be like, well, I'm experiencing domestic violence. I'm experiencing, my they don't care. You're a number. So, if you can do the job, if you can't do the job, then get out. They don't care. And that's why, again, this whole system, the way that they treat you is so disrespectful. There's no respect. They don't care. Not at all. And now you realize it when you become homeless. You realize how much of this whole system is a joke. It's an insult to my intelligence. I'm way too intelligent to play this game. So, so yeah, it's a breakdown of a human being. It is. So how do you get to be homeless? Guess what? When you get broken down. Yeah, that's how you become homeless. When you get broken down. And this is the funny thing is, for some people it might be, they might hit rock bottom when they turn 30. For some it might be it's when they're a teenager. it doesn't even matter. But it's like, it doesn't matter the age. They could be 50 years old and they could be homeless. I became homeless when I was 29, right before, I turned 30. So, again, it's years and years and years. And I said this in my first episode. I was an adult child. I'm an alcoholic. Can you imagine watching your father battle alcoholism? He had childhood trauma, a psychological, a lot of mental issues, and then use alcohol to cope with the trauma. Has kids, gets married, does all that, does what society, I guess, expects of you. I don't know. And then can never really escape the trauma. Now loses his job, loses his marriage, and then gets in an injury, then becomes homeless. And mind you, that's why I'm saying it's a level of destruction, okay? It's a psychological destruction. But it does not manifest so right away, okay? It takes years and years and years to become homeless. For some people, not all. So again, be mindful of, pointing that finger, because I think it's funny because you know what? I remember when I was younger, I would always give homeless people money, whatever. Because it's like, I'm not going to judge you. I don't care, why you ask for money. I'm going to give you money, whatever, But it's like when I became homeless, I just saw a lot of people, and they were so, not everybody, but there was a lot of people that were judgmental, especially other homeless people. It's almost like, well, I know I'm homeless, but I'm like, why are you this? You know what I mean? So it's just, yeah, so now that I'm looking at the people in California, and it's so funny that this fire is happening in California, because you know how they have a big homeless population and problem also in California. So now it's like all these celebrities and these just regular folks, not people that that had trauma, but just the people that had just regular normal day-to-day folks. They go to work, they have a job, and not just celebrities, but just any average person. Now they're homeless because of this man-made or this natural disaster, the fire that happened. But it lets you really know that in a blink of an eye, that could also happen to you too. So again, but you know what the funny thing is also about this whole list that I say that I just mentioned? And this is why I say they need to really address the homeless situation in America, because a lot of times when you're homeless, right? They don't even, how I'm doing like these little categories, and I'm saying, okay, there's different variations of homelessness, because you can go be a domestic violence victim, but you might not have an addiction, right? Maybe there's somebody that had experienced domestic violence. They have an addiction. Now, mind you guys are both at the same shelter, okay? You abuse alcohol, whatever. This person doesn't. You guys both experience domestic violence, but you don't really have, you don't have the same coping mechanisms. You know what I mean? Like maybe this person has a psychological issue. I don't know. The thing what I'm trying to basically say is that in the homeless shelters, they don't care why you're homeless. Oh, they don't break it down with the way I'm breaking it down. They just put you all in the same place and then expect you to just survive. Some people though, okay, if you have domestic violence, if you're with children, if you have a child, they make more of a, they make a place for you for your child if you're a mother. But if you're not a mother, a lot of times if you're just like a single woman, they're not gonna do a lot for you. They're really not. So yeah, it's like there's not a sense of organization in the homeless shelters. They're very chaotic, and if you're already dealing with a chaotic background, can you imagine going to a homeless shelter and then even deal with more chaos? That's why it's funny, when they say, oh, how come these homeless people, why are they sleeping outside? Why don't they go to the shelter? Because the shelter is trash. it's not designed for you to get better. It's designed really for you to get worse. Mm-hmm. The shelter is the worst place for you to be in when you're homeless. It actually ruins you. It's like another way to, you know how I just said, that's why I'm sorry, this whole thing is really dark and evil, because mind you, when you were homeless, you already got broken down as a person to even enter the door of a homeless shelter. By the time you enter the homeless shelter, you're already broken down as a person. You've already psychologically, mentally, physically, you've broken down. Can you imagine? And I'm one of those people, I hate asking for help. I never liked asking for help because I like to be in control. And that's psychological. When you've never had an environment where you would never be able to be under control, what ends up happening is because you become a control freak. The reason why is because as a child, you've never had anything safe. So now you want to let people that tell you, oh, do this or do that. You're like, or you don't want to ask for help because every time you ask for help, they're not going to really help you the way that you want to be helped. And I hate that saying, oh, beggars can't be choosers. I have every right to choose. Just because I'm homeless does not mean that I change. Well, because I don't have a job. Only people that have a job can be choose. That's what I'm saying. Like, look how we look at people. Give me a break. I could choose whatever I want. Because what I'm trying to get you to understand is that when you're in the homeless shelter, that they look at you as like a criminal. They judge you. They blame you. How dare you become homeless? How dare you give up on capitalism? This game is sick. You know what I mean? It's a very sick game. They want you to play when you can't play anymore. Do you get that? They want you to play when you can't play anymore. And then when you finally say, I'm tired of this game, I don't want to play anymore, they tell you, you know what? Well, beggars can't be choosers. Even though you went to college, you have a degree, you did what was expected of you as society. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is why people don't go to the homeless shelters, why the couch surf. And then Cambridge had the nerve to say, oh, in Cambridge, we don't consider couch surfing homelessness. Unless you're sleeping outside or you're in a shelter, then you're homeless. No, the definition of being homeless is somebody that doesn't have a home. That's the definition. You can't just create your own little definition, Cambridge. So yeah, this is what I'm going to talk about in my documentary. So let me calm down, because of course I have, my fight and flight. I'm going to do a whole other episode on fight and flight, because your fight and flight gets messed up when you're in a homeless shelter. You can throw that out of the window too. For those of you who say, what is fight and flight? It's your vagus nerve getting messed with. And it doesn't need to. The only time you should be having a fight or flight reaction is a normal time. If you see a dog or if you see a rat, yeah, you're scared. Or if somebody you feel like is following you behind. When you're in a shelter, you always are fight and flight because you never feel safe. That's not healthy to always have those reactions. You should be having it once in a while when you really have a fear. But when you're in the homeless shelter, again, your fight and your flight gets messed up. It does. And then when you leave the shelter, now you can't even regulate your fight and flight. Now any little thing triggers you because you've over-exhausted that fight and flight. You know what I mean? Now your nervous system is all messed up. It's all messed up. It really is. So, yeah, that's a lot of things. They break you down. If you experience being homeless, consider yourself lucky. I mean, if you survive being homeless, consider yourself really fortunate. But now I'm at a place. So this is also another psychological thing too. You can no longer be homeless anymore, but you still carry yourself like a homeless person. And then this is also a thing too. Is like before you even get to the homeless shelter, you already had low vibration. Because remember, being homeless is a low vibrational state. If it's not that man-made one, then maybe if it's not the first one, if it's not the one I choose, if it's not those two, but if it's the other ones, those are all very low vibrational places to be in. If you ever had a traumatic event, you're in a low vibrational state. And the longer you're in a low vibrational state, the harder it is to get out of it and to ascend. Okay? Are you understanding what I'm getting at? It's very hard to ascend. It's like it's so hard to climb that mountain when you're constantly having to deal with so many just negative things. Like, can you imagine climbing a mountain if it's pouring raining out and you're trying to climb that mountain, or if it's snowing, or if it's windy? Think about it when you're homeless. You're trying to always, navigate your time. But there's always something that messes up or doesn't go your way. You can't take a shower because you know what I mean? Like, you can't take a shower whenever you feel like it. You have to put your name on a list. So it's not, again, you're constantly fighting. You're such in a low vibrational state, and then the shelters don't really help you all the time either. Sometimes they do if you take the classes, but it's also the people that you're around too. A lot of the people at the homeless shelters, not all, but a majority of them are awful. When I say majority, I'm talking about majority meaning more than 50% of the people. And I'm sorry to say that, but I think it's because when you're not in an evolved state, you're not going to be good to other people because you're such in a low vibration. So now it's like all of these low vibrational people, right? You guys are all in this shelter together, and then you're all antagonizing each other because nobody feels right. It's such an awful, like, existence. Okay? It really is. So now you can see why I call this channel Black Eye Galaxy. The Black Eye Galaxy is such a hard place to be in. It's a hard galaxy. It's a very dark galaxy. The name of my channel is called Vegas Mool Galaxy. It's not the Black Eye Galaxy because we're trying to get out of way. We're trying to get the hell away from this Black Eye Galaxy. We're not trying to be up in this anymore. We're tired. I'm tired. I want to get out of here. I want to get out. Because you just want something. Because there's so much more out there. You really do. It's like you realize when you're in that such a dark place, you start thinking, you're like, how the hell did I get here? And that's why you have to go back. Have to go back and really look back in your life. And you have to say, where did I go wrong? Maybe you didn't go wrong. Maybe you're a victim of your circumstances. Maybe you didn't get the support or the love. And then, again, how do you learn how to take care of yourself and love yourself while you're homeless? Because you already, mind you, you already got broken down before you even got to that state of homelessness. So it's not an easy place to be in. And then you can't even express yourself because, again, remember I told you society has a preconceived notion of a homeless person and they blame you a lot. So they judge you. So the minute you say, that's why sometimes I remember when I was homeless, I never liked to tell people that I was homeless because they'd always be like, oh, is she crazy? Is she psychotic? Is she on drugs? What's wrong with her? How could she be homeless? Like, I don't get it. Because you're not deep. You don't think deeply about things. You never understood it. So, only somebody who's really deep can really understand. There's a lot of pain behind this identity. So, yeah. And you know what? And that's also a misconceived notion. It's so funny how they want to say people are homeless that are on drugs. There's a lot of rich people that are on drugs. Drugs. You can be drugs whether you're poor or rich. It does not matter what state you're in. Okay. Actually, I think it makes more sense when you're rich to be a drug addict because at least you can afford it. What's the point of being poor and being on drugs? You can't afford it. But I just think at the end of the day, drug is an escapism. Stop pinpointing it as like a homelessness issue. It's always not a homelessness issue. So this episode, I really hope you guys can understand, like, why I get tired of people labeling homelessness as just one type of issue, and because it falls under so many layers. It's a very lot of layers. So, yeah. And shout out to all the people that were homeless that had a job. Yep. Those are the real MVPs on this earth. Can you imagine how hard it is to have a job, deal with the stress of going to work, then go back to the homeless shelter and deal with the nonsense that's over there, and the disrespect that you constantly deal with at the homeless shelter. Yeah, there's a lot of disrespect that you go through. So if you have a job, I could never have a job when I was homeless. I wasn't that strong. I couldn't. I was not able to do all that. But you know what though? Even though I didn't have a job, it's I still kind of had a job in a way, because my job, going through homelessness was to survive. I had a job. That one job was to survive that. Cause I was like, I'm gonna get the help out of here. This is not, some people didn't make it though. So that's how a lot of people lose their lives to homelessness. And I'm telling you, in this world, in particular, like this country, where they don't care about mental health, they don't. I think that really, like, it's like all of it. If you when you experience it, when you realize it, for yourself, you realize that, like, we don't really have a world that really takes care of you. No, this whole world is chaotic. And it's a very dangerous world when once you really become homeless, because you have to remember, on a psychological aspect, remember, you're no longer playing their game, right? You don't have a job anymore. You're not interacting with society. Now you're in the homeless shelter. You're a number, but you've navigated that world, and that's also another world in and of itself. Okay, so, but you still can look at the other world, and then you're like, okay, do I really want to go back into that world? I mean, I hate it here too, but both of them suck. You know what I mean? Because you go to work, you pay your bills. Even though you don't pay bills when you're homeless, you still can never heal because you don't have a home. You can't decompress. You can't have a nice bath and have an Epsom salt, whatever. You can't walk around naked. You can't do anything that's comfortable, that's can comfort you. No. But then when you're on that side of the world, it's also hard to paying bills and basically being a hamster on the wheel. You're either a hamster on the wheel, or you're the the wanderer. They both suck in a way. I'm saying we don't have a middle ground on right now. As of 2025, we don't have a middle ground. So who's winning out here? I don't know. Is it the rich person? Who knows? But just please, I hope if you learned one thing from this episode today, is just not to judge people that end up, in that. Because that could happen to you too. Yep. Life has a funny way of flipping things around. So, yeah. But yeah, there's also, a lot. I've gained a lot of wisdom behind being homeless. Even though I have a lot of physical therapy and psychological therapy that I have to do from a lot of, because you also lose time. Time of yourself that you've never really invested in. You couldn't really take time for yourself. You lose a lot of time to yourself. So, yeah. And I'm trying to regain that time back. Even though I've gained a lot of experience of being homeless and dealing with all that, there's still parts of me that I feel as if sometimes I just kind of feel like, ugh, like, you have moments where you're like, you just think about those moments, and you're like, this, it's just, it never really leaves you. It never does. So, but, yeah, I don't know. It's a very, very interesting and complex journey that not many people can go through. And it's funny because I saw a lot of people that were homeless, and I'm telling you, they couldn't even deal with it. They were like, you know what, I can't. They like nope. They had to get a roommate, or you know, whatever, or go back living with their like just their family that was so traumatic. It was so bad, the shelter, that they had to go back to their family that was also abusive. So this whole system is trash. It really is. But you know, I'm glad I'm saying my story because I want people to understand. And at first, I didn't really want to tell people my story because I was like, you know what, I'm a private person. I don't want people in my business. But you know what, I have to say it because it will help other people to really understand the magnitude of homelessness. Because it's like I said, too many people just think you're either crazy, and I hate that word crazy. You know what I mean? Because again, anybody can be crazy. Rich people can be crazy too. You know what I mean? It's not just people that are broke. So, so just be mindful of that. Be very mindful. Yeah. So you know that was. I didn't want to really go like you know. I'm not. I know there's a lot of intelligent people out there, but there's also a lot of people that work with the homeless population that, and it's always the people that work in the homeless population that never been homeless, and and sometimes you just like they don't get it, you know. But yeah, it's almost finished. I have 1 more minute to this, so I'm gonna be packing up my things. Oh yeah, let me say the name of my channel is called Vagus Mole Galaxy. So if you want to keep up with me, you can keep up with me on my YouTube channel. I also have a TikTok, but I don't really upload. I'm not gonna really be active on that too much. But you can follow me on there too. It's called EduShakor88. EduShikor. Okay. Have a good night or good evening. Bye. Oh.
Nice show.
Thank you. I had a lot on my mind.
Yeah.